presented by She3, offering relatable healing and authentic content. In today's episode 106, we will talk about maintaining healthy relationships with other women and how it's influenced by, affected by the mother-daughter relationship. I am your host, and you are listening to She Speaks with Yana Me. Joining me for today's episode is one of my closest friends, Tiffany Paulette. And if you would like to tell them a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into all the good stuff.
Hi, my name's Tiffany. As she stated, I've known Taki for over 10 years now. I'm originally from East St. Louis, Illinois. So for you that don't know where that's located, it's close to St. Louis, about 5 minutes away. I moved to Chicago in 2003 and attended Chicago State University. And that is how me and Taki met. And I've been living in Chicago ever since. It's become my second home.
So yes, we did meet at Chicago State University. We were both in the master's program there for clinical mental health counseling. It was a good experience. We had some great teachers. I think one of the best ones we had was Dr. DiCarlo, but he doesn't work there anymore. I don't know where he's at. Oh, let me tell y'all about Dr. DiCarlo. So he didn't give a fuck. I mean, he didn't care if you had families, if you had anything, because you chose to do this postgraduate work. Get this post degree or whatever. And that changed for him when he decided to have a child later in life. Okay? He had his baby, I want to say it was our last year. It was during our last year of our program.
He was in his 40s.
And he was in his 40s. Yeah. And he would be late to class. It was all types of stuff. But yet, you told us that shit, you need to get your life together because you chose to do this graduate work. So you're going to put your all into it, regardless of families and other obligations and all of that. But he had a whole baby and couldn't. It was hard to hack for him. And we saw that, and trust me, if you're ever able to listen to this, Dr. DiCarlo, we talked about you.
We
that
did.
Whole last year of our program, when you had that baby, we definitely talked about you. But he was a good professor.
He was a good professor.
He was a really good professor. And then we had this professor, Dr. G. He was the only one I couldn't really stand. Well, not that I couldn't stand him. He was just a little irritating because he wouldn't listen. He would talk and not listen to what you were saying, which is one of the things that was most important in being a therapist.
Is to listen.
And he wasn't listening to some of the stuff we would say. And then he'll come back and, all of a sudden he had an epiphany. And would say the same thing that you were saying to him and trying to get clarification about. And he would come back with it like it was totally his idea. No, it was me and your subconscious. And you remembered that I asked that question.
Yes. That's
what that was. But that's how we met at Chicago State. It was the three of us. We had our little trio. It was her, me, and our other friend, Tara Keisha. Her nickname is Keisha. And she is from Kentucky. Kentucky, right?
Yes.
Kentucky. And she is every bit from Kentucky, baby. Every bit. The accent is still clear as day no matter how long she's been in Chicago. We have sister dates. We have sister dates. We used to try for monthly. That didn't work so well because Keisha is the on-the-go girl, and she is always out of town or busy. And we don't mean fake busy. We mean
she's making
busy.
Moves. Yes.
She be busy. And so then it went to every other month, and we haven't stuck to that. And now we've only had one sister date this year, and that was to Woo's house. Last year we went to and I think we only did it once last year.
It might have been.
And that was when we went
year.
to Two Fish.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you got to do better, Keisha, because we blaming this on Keisha because of Keisha's schedule. Because I will say, okay, we can go in a minute. Like we can go tomorrow. Okay, Keisha be the one. We can go today. Keisha be the one with the schedule that you got to really, really work around. Because old girl be busy. So we date. We have sisters dates. You should date as friends. It's healthy. But everyone does it, though. I know everyone does it. Everyone spends so much time with their best friends, going out together, being at each other's houses. Just, women have no problem dating their friends. And obviously men don't either. They just have a problem with dating each other. But that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. Today we are talking about maintaining healthy relationships with other women and how it was influenced by the relationships you have held with your mom or your grandmother or those who are in that position that raised you. So we're going to talk to Tiffany a little bit more about her relationship with her mother and her grandmother and how that has influenced how she has built friendships with the other women in her life.
So, yeah, referring to that, my mom and my grandmother did raise me. My father was in my life, but he wasn't a strong factor in terms of being there every day. So, in regards to my discussion on my relationships with my family, I call my grandmother Mama. You know, in the black community, you might also know it as Big Mama, but I call her Mama. And my mother, my biological mom, I call her Mommy. So, and we do speak on a consistent basis. So, in terms of my mommy, we do have a very close relationship, and it is kind of like having dates with each other because my mom was single raising me, and then, of course, I was young and learning about relationships. So we would go on dates together, and we would sit down and have discussions. In terms of our mom's friends, she didn't really have a lot of women around her. She never did sister dates as we do, but she does have a very large family. So my mom does have a younger sister, and also we have a lot of cousins and aunties that grew up together. So they form their own relationships and they do things together. And it was more so like a sisterhood versus being cousins or older aunties. And that's how I learned about building relationships and just really being there, not only as a family, but also developing relationships and creating memories. In terms of my mom, my mother, also known as Big Mama, she hates that name, but it's okay. So in terms of my mom, she also raised me, and I also lived with her. So it was kind of like on the other side of the spectrum. She didn't have a lot of girlfriends or best friends, as we would call it. It was more so me and her. So me and her would go out on dates together. We would go to movies. We would sit down and talk, and she would just tell me about different things in life. And me being the only child, I don't have any siblings. So really my relationships were formed by those two and the things that I saw around me. And both of them play and still play a very important role in my life as I've gotten older, just teaching me about loyalty and how to handle friendships. And, you know, sometimes as friends, you do have misunderstandings or you might fall out with each other. And maybe not speak for years, but then come back together. For example, I did grow up with my very first best friend. Her name is Ashley. We're both from the same community in East St. Louis. And we met when I was 4 and she was 5. So we literally grew up together. We danced together. We went on trips together. And my mom and my mommy did not like her. Not in terms of she was a bad person, because she's a very beautiful girl, but it was more so she was full of life. We'll put it like that. She went to places, you know, she could hang out late. I couldn't. I was kind of very sheltered as a child.
We definitely have that in common.
Yes, I was very sheltered as a child. So even though I grew up in the hood, as people would call it, I also wasn't able to experience the same things that she did, but we were still very good friends. I got a lot of whoopings because I was sneaking to hang with her, and they're like, you know, she's not a good influence, but you know what? I'm a good person. I have a very big heart, and if I call you my friend, I'm going to be there for you regardless. I don't care what it is. So we formed a relationship. We were friends for years. We actually both moved to Chicago. She went to UIC. I went to Chicago State, and we maintained our friendship. But as you get older, sometimes as women or people in general, you grow apart, and I think that's kind of what happened with us. We grew apart, and we didn't speak for maybe 8 or 9 years. She was in a relationship. I felt like she left me for another guy, and I was like kind of sad about it. But hey, you know, things happen. But we did reconnect around 2011, and we're rebuilding our friendship now as adult women. And I think it was beautiful that we actually were able to take time out of our schedules and sit down and discuss what went wrong, my perception of why we stopped talking, her perception, and just being adults and saying, you know what, life is short. I love you. You love me. Let's try to make this work. So that was kind of like my first introduction into like real friendships and building friendships.
You know, isn't it crazy how people put the difference in relationships, right? You have your romantic relationships, you have your relationship with your friends, you have your relationship with your family, cousins, siblings, aunts, whatever. But when it comes down to it, a relationship is a relationship. What it involves is different. like we don't sleep with our best friends, most of us. You don't do those type of things in certain relationships, but when it all comes down to it, communication is the same across the board. You want to be able to communicate with whoever that important person is in your life.
Yes.
And, understand each other, hear each other, and rebuild or repair, relationships. And that's the funny part to me, that we seem to, and no one really notices, like, okay, I require this from my friends. Why is it so hard to require from a spouse, or just, those different relationships when it's really the same, when it comes down to it. But so talking about your experience with Ashley, do you feel like one of the things you mentioned was about you guys rebuilding, repairing the relationship, and sometimes we get stuck on the fact that things aren't how they used to be.
Yes.
And then we forget that you outgrow certain things anyway. And which means if you're changing and they're changing, and change is constant, that means that the way a friendship is built or shaped or looks like will change. So are you just afraid of how the look of it is going to change for you guys? Or, because, you don't want to get stuck in wanting things to be like they were when that's really not how they should be anyway. Yeah. Because like I said, everything is supposed to change. Right. You're supposed to grow different ways, and hopefully not apart, but you're supposed to grow nonetheless. So with it not being how it used to be, are you scared that you won't be as close or anything like that?
Well, I have a close circle of friends anyway. I always tell people I only have really 5 good friends that I know that will be there for me regardless. So in terms of her and our relationship, we started rebuilding around 2011. We sat down, we had a conversation, and change, like you said, change is always going to happen, and some change is actually good. Mm-hmm. So we're both, of course, living our own lives, but I can still sit down and have a conversation with her, and we've both apologized for maybe misunderstandings that we had in the past, and now we're moving forward. And I think that's important in any relationship, whether it be romantic, best friend, cousin, family, to be able to sit down and have a conversation and rebuild a relationship with somebody. Because as you get older, you have a different understanding. When we were adolescents, it was kind of that you had that I'll never die kind of attitude. Nothing can harm me, but as you become a woman or grow and evolve, you have families, you have your own families, you have relationships that you've been through. So it's a different connection being an adult. And in terms of me and her, we have been able to reconnect. And I do call her really a good friend. I support her as I do any of my good friends in any positive things that she's doing in her life. She's traveling now. She has a very healthy relationship. And, we've been able to sit down and discuss me coming out of a really tough relationship, and as she has too, and just connecting on different things now. Back then it was boys and, I want to go to this school, and now it's about, we're getting a little closer to 40. And, hey, those conversations are more like building families, having children. And now it's just about enjoying life.
Closer to 40.
You know what? That's okay. Because you know what? I look forward to 35. I'm not there yet. But, change is a blessing. Life is amazing. Because I always think, each day you have to live to the fullest. And I'm not the type of person, I get upset, I get mad, but in terms of holding grudges or saying, back in 98, you took this boy from me, or you did this and you did that, it's like, why? Because you never know what tomorrow's going to hold. So I always live for today, and I tell everybody, my advice is, if you can rebuild a relationship, it has to be something that you and that other person wants. Right? It can't be one-sided, because you can love a person, but maybe they don't love you back, and that's okay. That's okay. But I always try to tell people, if this is a true friend, for example, me and Taki have been friends over 10 years. I've talked to her about things. I'm like, hey, if it's ever a misunderstanding, because us as people, you might say something and maybe I didn't mean it like that. And if she was to stop talking to me, I'd be like, why you stop talking to me? And she says, oh, it's not important. As a friend, as a true sister, as we call each other, that would hurt. because I'm like, we've shared so many things in life together. I was here for the birth of her second child. It's like you have these milestones in life.
I know, right?
And these are definitely friendships that you will want to rebuild. So I would tell any woman, even with your best friend or your life partner, if it's really a positive, healthy relationship that you want to rebuild, please do, because it's so important.
Definitely. People say, you mentioned something a few seconds ago about your circle and, having a small circle of friends. And I just think about the fact that people say I'm too friendly. So
she is.
I love people, right? And I love friendships. And I don't like making friends and having to not, and ended up not being friends with them again. So I really do. I have an issue. I don't know if it's an issue, but I have this thing about holding on to relationships, whether they're good or not so good, because I value friendship. And once you're my friend, I feel like you're my friend and you're going to be stuck with me. But that is not always the case, and it's not always healthy, right? And I was just thinking about, her rebuilding that. I have a friend who I became best friends with in the military. And we had it was the three amigos. It was me and two other women. Hopefully, don't mind me saying their name, because I'm going to talk about them. Going to be talked about throughout all of my podcasts if it has to come up about me friends. I have a lot of friends. I have a really big circle of friends, and I'm very proud of that. I am happy to not have, I have each woman in my life serve a purpose for me. And I don't want that to come off in a bad way or anything, but they all contribute to different aspects of my life. And especially when these friendships were made in different aspects of my life, at different times of my life. I became close friends with Tiffany and Sarah Keisha as we were going through a grad program. Mm-hmm. So we related on a whole different level and trying to learn how to be therapists. And then, we would spill our guts to each other, yeah. At our after class, or if we chose to go to Applebee's and get the $5 drinks or something like that after class, or the weekend or something like that. My two best friends from the military, they became my best friends at a time when I was transitioning from a child into an adult and having to learn how to build these relationships on my own without any guidance or assistance, because I was away from home. I have best friends from high school, best friends that I've built here in Chicago. It's just people became my friends at different phases in my life that they were needed, and they still are needed. They contribute to me. But these other two friends, Mika and Tisha, are my two best friends, were my two best friends from the military. We were the three amigos, Charlie's Angels. We took pictures before we got out of the military at JCPenney's. Ooh. I have them. I'm gonna put them up. And
she is dating us. No.
Yeah, and we didn't even call each other and tell each other what we were wearing. But we ended up coordinating. It was black, red, silver. We all had on these colors. Wow. I think Tisha only one who had on a red belt, but we were coordinated with the black and silver. It was just crazy how we didn't even think to say, hey, what we wearing? Are we going to match? No, we didn't. We just showed up and by God, we were matching. And so we were always very, very close. I remember when we deployed to Afghanistan, we went to, I don't know, it was the place where we split up. Okay. And I cried so hard. We were crying. We played the I'm a Mess song.
Not I'm a Mess.
By Anthony Hamilton. Yes, that was our departing song. We cried. I was a crybaby. I still am a crybaby. That is never going to change. But yes, we cried. It was we were splitting up, and that was the first time we were splitting up. Out of the time we had been friends, and I'm losing my best friends. And they're going to become best friends with other people. And Tisha did make another best friend, Sergeant Tony. I wasn't jealous, but, I was left out. We were on different vibes, so we really had. So we would talk by email and instant messenger. That's how we would talk, but it was mostly by email. Okay. But yeah, so we had I didn't have a falling out. So Mika and Tisha had a falling out around some things and didn't talk. And then me and Tisha didn't talk. I felt like she didn't talk to me. So what happened was a couple of years ago, I sent her a message. I was like, are you available? Are you free to talk? Mm-hmm. I really want to talk to you or whatever. She was like, yeah. So I asked him, like, what did I do? What happened? Why did we stop talking? Because it always bothered me. But I felt like she wasn't talking to me. I'm like, why is she not talking to me? I didn't do nothing.
Right. We still friends.
And she was like, well, I felt like when the stuff happened with me and Mika that you stopped talking to me. And, I don't know how I would have reacted in the situation either, or whose side I would have took. And I'm just like, damn. I laughed. I sent the LOL, and I said communication is everything because I felt like you stopped talking to me. And that's like basically where it was. She felt like I stopped talking to her. I felt like she stopped talking to me. When it came down to it, we both had stopped talking to each other.
Okay.
Basically. Because I thought it was her, she thought it was me, and then neither one of us reached out.
And it was both.
So it just went on, and I just like, I don't like having that uncertainty, between me and my friends. I want to know, like you said, what's going on. Right. What did I do? I miss you.
Yeah.
And so we talked after that, and then, we've slowly been talking. I don't know if we'll ever be like we were before, like you said. I would love to be, though, because I love my friends, and there's no reason that we shouldn't be. But, things happen, and you drift apart, and we drifted apart because of communication issues and not talking, thinking it was the other person, when we could have just resolved that way sooner than later. And so, I got a little jealous. I won't say mad, but I was definitely jealous. She went, so me, Mika, Tisha, and then a group of other friends went to Jamaica when we got back from Afghanistan. Okay. That was our girls' trip, but it turned out just to be a group trip. But it was a girls' trip, so to say. And she went to Jamaica a couple of years ago with her friends from Texas, because that's what Tisha is now. She in Texas, and I was mad. I felt cheated on. I did. I told Mika, I was like, I feel like she cheated on me. Like, she went to Jamaica with these friends. Like, what the hell? How could you take somebody else to our spots? That is our spot. Even if you can go with your husband, but you can't go with no new friends. That is our spot, yo. And it hurt.
I get it.
It hurt my feelings. And, but that's just because I'm jealous. I am a jealous friend, too. Even though I don't want none of my friends to be jealous, I am jealous of all the other friends that my other friends have. I can't be their only friend, especially when they know that they're not my only friend. So it's crazy. That's me, but I don't, act out on it. I don't act out on it at all. I don't be like, oh, there go your friend. No, I love my friends' friends. I make sure I love their friends because that's their friends. And I don't want them to ever feel uncomfortable about having friends and me being their friends and having to have, oh, this is my jealous best friend. Don't worry about her. No, I don't want to be that person. Gotcha. So I love their friends as well. But, repairing relationships that are important to you, like you said, is a very important thing to do. So I do hope that in the future we're able to, like, get back close or just, more than what we are now. But that's what happens when you don't communicate. When you don't have those conversations and just talk to each other sooner, and you let things fester, and you have this whole thought about what went down and why they're not talking to you, and then they have this whole thought. And when it really came to, dang, we should have just said something to each other, at the very beginning, instead of letting years pass, because honestly, years have passed before I reached out to her. I want to say at least 3.
Yeah. It
was at least 3 years before I reached out. And I feel like that was on me, and on her. We could have did better. So my little tidbit about that. But I know I talked in the last episode about communication. And I talked about how I learned of friendships, or how I learned to communicate with other women based off of how my mom communicated with her sisters and with her friends. And so my mother's friendship with my Aunt Virginia, like I mentioned, really taught me about friendships. They were very close. They went everywhere together. They talked every day. If they didn't see each other every day, they talked every day. And I heard those conversations. Not to be nosy, but like I know that they talked every day. Like my aunt was a rider. They were a rider for each other, right? I heard about some of the stuff that they used to do, okay? Sugar in tanks and stuff, but I'm gonna mind my business, you know what I'm talking about? But I heard about all that, and but I remember when I was younger, my dad, my biological dad, kind of jumped on my mom. We was outside, and my aunt came over, jumped on his back, hit him all in his head. I'm like, yeah, that's my mama rider. I ain't said it at the time, but after the fact, thinking about it, I'm like, they was down for each other. That was their friendship. And so I've always wanted to build my friendships, not exactly like that, but so that they know, no, I fight for my friends too.
Hey,
no doubt.
I'm with you.
But I just wanted them to. I always wanted my friends to know, like, I will always be there. I'm here.
Right.
I'm open, and I know sometimes, like, some of my friends may. I think, and so this is the thing, I'm interpreting something. And I think some of them may feel like this, or one in particular, like, I'm a problem fixer. Right? That's like my whole look. If you tell me something is wrong, even though I know as a friend I should probably just comfort you first, be there for you, let you vent, but I automatically go into, okay, well, what can we do to fix it? And so I think that sometimes comes off as me being kind of cold, because I just want to be able to, fix this issue so you're not hurting anymore. And the reason I say cold is because that may not be what they want me to do.
Okay.
They may not want to fix something right now. Right now, I just want to tell you so you can be here for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, what freaking comforting words to offer you outside of me, like, trying to fix this issue. Like, what we finna do? Like, what you want me to do? I'm looking up stuff. I instantly go into fix mode. And so I am trying to tone that back some and try, I don't know. And maybe that's, having these clear conversations about what do you expect from me. Because, I think that's an okay conversation to have, too. What do you expect from me? What do you want this to look like, because I just want to help you fix the problem so it can go away. And you don't no longer have to be bothered and hurt by it or whatever the case is. So that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. But if that's not what you want me to do, okay, just let me know so I can know, like, because, the little sayings that they have on Facebook, if you want to vent without response, then you vent to your diary. Okay. Or something. But when you vent to someone, regardless of what it is you expect from them, they're going to respond. Now if it's a way you want or not, hey, I don't know. But they're going to respond in whatever way they see fit.
Okay.
And so if that's not what you want, then it's best to vent to your diary. And that's just like one of the things that I saw going around. And it's true to a certain extent. Because sometimes when I want to vent, I don't want to hear you say anything back. I just want to tell you what the hell I'm thinking or what's going on, what I'm upset about, and take my side. If you are going to say something, even if I'm wrong, and then you can just tell me after I'm calmed down that, yeah, you were wrong, sis. Or some shit like that.
But you want to fix it, but you don't want somebody else to fix it.
I know, I'm backwards.
But no, it's not, you know what? It's not backwards. I feel like when you have friends, they play, like you say, they play different roles in your life. So you're my friend, like you say, you want to fix it. I know that I'm not going to come to you just to vent. I'm going to come to you when I've already got it off my chest and I'm like, hey, Todd, let me tell you what happened. Woo, woo. And then you're like, okay, so what you do to fix it? Because we can Google this. We can go here. You can do counseling. You have friends that play different roles in your life. So I have a friend that I can vent to. I know she's going to sit there and just listen and say, okay, you done? Okay, how do you feel now? Okay, I just wanted to get it off my chest. And by any means, I'm not the person to vent. I'm the type of friend, I hold things in, especially if it's something going on in my life. I've never been the type to say, oh my God, let me tell so-and-so what happened to me. I hold things in. So I know for me, I can process it first. I feel like when it comes to me, I have to process it first for myself. Let those emotions kind of settle and then reach out and say, hey, Talk, what happened? What you think I should have did, or what's your view on it? Because I know you're that fixer. You're like, well, let me Google. Let me look it up. Oh, we can go out. Let's have a sister date, Or you have that other friend, like I recently made a good friend over a year ago, another Ashley. And I know my baby's a ride or die. So if I tell her something, she's like, okay, let's get it. Let's ride.
So we're talking about the same girl, by the way, which is another one of my close friends, yes. Ashley. And Ashley is a type of friend. So some stuff went down, and she popped off all her nails, at her job. Sent me the picture and was like, so who asked you want me to go beat? Like, let's we finna go? Like, what we finna do? Like, she's a friend. She's there for you. She's absolutely there for you. She's going to love you. She's going to talk to you and all that. But she's also the one that's going to drop everything. What we finna do, sis? Yes. Who asked we finna be? That's what she be on. And I ain't nothing wrong with it. But, you do have your friends for everything. I remember Lauren, one of my previous guests, she had a focus group for her business before she kicked off Hey Miss Lady before it went, live. She had a focus group. We talked about different things. We talked about friendship. One of the things we talked about was being open with other women. And one of the things I said was I feel like I give my best friends pieces of me that I don't give everyone all of me at one time. And one of my other friends who was there that I used to work with, she was like, well, isn't that being fake? And I thought about it, and I don't think it's being fake. I think that I know what I'm able to give of myself and to who.
Okay.
And also it's also a fear thing. So even though I'm as open as I say that I am, I'm also very private when it comes to certain things that I go through emotionally. I think I still am a little afraid to give people that part of me, everybody that part of me, because I have this, not purposely, I don't want it, but I've become that person that my mom was. And in a sense of what I mean as far as having to be strong and show that you're strong and just be like, my mom can't handle when I'm emotional. She can't. My mom cannot handle when I cry. She can't handle when I'm upset. It's been a couple of times I've been crying and she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna let you just calm down or whatever and I'll call you back. But I know it's to get off the phone because she can't really
process.
handle she can't handle me crying. And it's just like I've been this strong person, and so no one's used to me being emotional or vulnerable. I have another close friend, another best friend, Erica, and she said, no one knows when to be there for you because you are so strong. And so that I don't know how to not throw it away, but kind of bring it down so that I don't want to be strong, but it's just, especially all the time, I think it's just something that I ended up doing. And so that's why I'm always like this, okay, I'm going to fix this, fix that. Okay, we just going to focus on this and do that. And I get tired of that sometimes too, though.
I can see that. Yeah. It's hard being strong all the
time. Yes. Yeah. And it is so okay to be weak, because weak is not a bad thing. I don't even want to say weak. It's okay to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very okay to be vulnerable. Nothing's wrong with that. You can't be Superwoman all the time. Superwoman had to take that cape off sometimes and just be a girl or just be a woman, without all the other shindigs hanging from her. So, I don't know. I think about that often. I don't think it's me being fake. I just think it's me giving people what I feel like they can handle of me.
Okay.
I don't cry, honestly, with a lot of people. I think that if I do end up crying in front of you, it must be because I'm really, really either upset or overwhelmed at that moment. And it's going to come out regardless of what I try to hold in.
Yeah.
I think that's what normally happens. And then sometimes I freely do it, as freely as I can. But it just really depends. But yeah, that's why I say all my best friends, close friends, sisters, however I choose to describe them, they perform a certain way. They're just a certain role in my life, and I'm able to be certain ways with different people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's being fake. It's what I'm capable of at this moment. We'll go with that. So what has your relationship with your mom and your grandma taught you about, I don't know, how to rid yourself of negative relationships or experiences with other women? Like, for me, my mom had a great friendship with the women she called her best friend.
Okay.
Her sister's relationships wasn't so great, except for her and the baby girl. They've always been the closest out of everybody. She's always been the closest with her baby sister. And then, some of the other sisters have always been closer with each other, but it was never an all close, everybody's close with each other type of thing.
Okay.
They would have their moments. And I don't want to say that copied itself over into the relationship with me and my sister. I don't really think that the relationship with my mom and her sisters really influenced how my relationship is with my sister. Okay. Because that's a whole nother, I don't even know what to describe that is. But she don't talk to me. I did, and like I said before, I have a problem with letting go of relationships, and this is a relationship that I don't want to let go of because she's my sister. But I did reach out to her a couple of years ago too, to ask her, what exactly have I done to you that makes you not want to talk to me? What is it so that I can apologize for it? Because I literally have no idea. And at first she said it was a few things. And then, after I disputed that and said what I said, and then she said that that we were never close because of the age difference. So we are about 8 years. We're 8 years apart, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, but you was best friends with our brother baby mama, who's younger than me. I'm like, so it can't really be the age difference. So like, what about it? And she was like, well, it's really not you. It's just like the family in whole. And then we went into a whole conversation about some other stuff. But basically, it was confirmation for me that I really didn't do anything. So it did make it a little bit easier. Like, I didn't feel like it was my fault, even though it was still hurtful for her not wanting to talk to me. I felt a little bit of relief because I was able to realize that, and through our conversation, I was able to see that it really wasn't me.
Okay.
But still, we don't have a relationship. I don't have a relationship with my older sister that I would like to have. But I don't really think that was influenced by my relationship with my mom or seeing her relationship with her sisters. Because even though they get on each other's nerves, even though when I say they have moments, they can be as good as pie, baby. And then when something goes wrong, they're as good as shit. Okay? Like, they are... I don't know. It's kind of like that saying, women can only be cool for so long, before falling out, and I don't see that as a issue in my friendships, but I've definitely saw that as an issue with their sisterhood.
Okay,
that they would be good for a while and then horrible after that, and then have to wait to see how many years or months pass before they're good again, or if everyone's back talking again. And but this has been the longest, I think. And then it's crazy, they go through spells. So one sister fought with the other sister, and then for some reason that'll cause them to be able to talk to the other sister, and it's just how that crap goes. It's crazy how that dynamic is. But I really don't. The point I'm making is they still talk when they're able to talk. When they get past their things, they have a relationship.
Okay. It's
not always a great one, but they have one. Me and my sister really don't have one. We don't talk. We don't do anything. But at least it doesn't stop her from letting my niece come with me. Like, when I ask to get my niece or whatever, I can get her. I make sure my boys know who she is and all the other stuff. But we really don't have a relationship. I asked her one time, I was like, yo, how long we going to pretend like we're strangers? Like, what I have to say, my sister is one stubborn cookie. She is very stubborn. I think she gets that from our mom.
Okay.
She's very, very stubborn. So she will ride it out, baby. So I don't know. I don't know how long this is going to last, but she will definitely ride it out. But I don't think that was affected. I really don't. I don't think that was affected by the example we had, because they still always, was in each other's lives. Yeah. But as far as friendships, it just made me want to make sure I maintained and held on to my friendships. Like, I definitely have a problem with letting go of people. I don't feel like I should have to let go of people that are really, really close to me. Okay. That I feel like we have a really good relationship, and if we fall out, we should be able to fix it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my thing with that. I don't know. But how has your relationship with your mom and your grandma helped you to get through any negative relationships that you've had to endure or experience and go through?
Well, for me, in terms of negative relationships, the majority of my negative relationships were my relationships with men.
Okay.
It wasn't really me having friends as in terms of like girlfriends, because like I say, me and my best friend, it was just me and her basically throughout till I got to college. I mean, I've had other friends. You say, hey, more of associates. You say, hey, how you doing? But it was never a bond. For me, I didn't really create sisterhoods or bonds until I got to college.
Okay.
Because I am a loner. Like I say, I'm the only child, so I'm used to being by myself. I didn't really need somebody else to go out with me. Like, I will go out to dinner with myself. I'll go to the movies by myself. And some people might say that, that's not healthy, but it worked for me.
I don't like doing nothing alone.
And see,
I'm trying to get better with that, but I literally hate, I love company.
And see, I can be by myself. Like, I have not lived on my own until probably like within the last year.
Okay.
So it was definitely I think that was more of like a culture shock to me, to actually be by myself in terms of like living and not having to take care, quote unquote, anyone else. So in terms of negative relationships, for me, it was more in relations. And as you were saying, your relationships, you like to hold on to those friendships. Mine were, I like to hold on when I'm in a relationship with somebody else.
And do you think that was influenced by the relationship with your mom and your grandmother, or was it influenced by the relationship that you had with your dad?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
Because in terms of my mother, my mommy, her and my dad were married up until the day he passed away. They were separated, though, and they worked better as friends. So I saw that relationship, like you can be in a relationship with another individual in terms of a romantic relationship and not actually be in the same household.
Okay.
So it was more so they would call each other all the time. They shared things with each other, and that worked for them. But it was never like, Tiffany, you got to grow up, you got to get married, you're going to do this, you have kids. It was no structure like that in terms of me and my mommy. I just saw the relationship that she had with my dad as being best friends. And I'm like, okay, you can actually have a male best friend or be with a spouse and not live in the same household and still have a good relationship. In terms of my mother, my grandmother, she's been with my grandfather over 30 years. And just to make it clear, he's not biologically my grandfather, but he's all I know.
Okay.
So he played a role as being like that father figure or somebody else I could just talk to in turn. And I watched their relationship. And, of course, they had ups and downs, and they went through things. And, like I say, 30-plus years, he saw my dad grow up. So, you know, that was only, like, quote-unquote male figure I had with him and my dad. So in terms of relationships and holding on, I saw that my mommy still was in contact with my father. And they got together way before I was born. So we're talking like at least 30, 35 years of just knowing each other. And in terms of my mother, my grandmother, they had been together for 30 plus years, maybe close to 40 now. And I just watched how they grew in those relationships. So on one end, I'm like, I'm okay being by myself, and probably just dating and trying to enjoy life. But then again, I also was like, if you're with me, we're together.
Yep. Okay.
It's me and you, regardless of what we go through. And I'll say it's kind of a catch-22. It's good in a way as a woman to be supportive and say, hey, I'm not going to give up on this. We in this together. Let's work it out. But then also as women, it's hard for us to let go, especially for me, because for me, I was in a relationship for 15 years. Me and my ex were together. I met him when I first came to Chicago. So that's all I knew. You know, I didn't know any other male figures. And we went through ups and downs, and it was a chaotic relationship. But I was like, you're with me, and we're going to work this out. And I rolled with that a little longer than I probably should have. And I think that played a major role on my upbringing, because I felt like maybe I don't want to say if my mom cut my dad off, but maybe if it was a different relationship in terms of them being best friends, it would be different. And then with my grandmother being with the same man for so long, like I was like, I have to be with my partner for a long time. Like, you don't just let an argument separate you.
Okay.
So in terms of friends, I had no problem cutting friends off when I was younger, because I felt like when I was younger, I had really bad anger. So if you made me mad,
that is so hard to even imagine. That is so hard to imagine.
Really?
I mean, I met you at a different stage in your life. And so for me, that's very hard to even, like, you had anger issues?
Yeah, really, I'm talking about like our other friend, Ashley, the ride or die. I was the ride or die friend. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings, because it was more of a defense mechanism. I'm like, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. And so that's kind of how I was back in the day. And I will admit, I went through anger management. I've never put sugar in the tank or anything like that. But I will admit, okay, I wouldn't say stole a car, but I was on a date with a guy. I was on a date with a gentleman who had took me out. I had to be like 16, y'all. And we had went out to the movies, and you know how you just pull over and you're talking, you're in conversations. I'm like, okay, I'm still pure. I ain't did nothing. Okay, as I said, I was sheltered when I was younger. and he wanted to have a sexual encounter. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. You know, you just took me to dinner. It's okay. I'm like, take me home. And he would not take me home. And I'm like, stop playing. Like, take me home. We're not going to do this. It was a nice date. And back then, we didn't have Uber and Lyft and all of that. So, you know, you young girls got that now. I didn't have that. I either had to get on the bus or hit it with the thumb. So he got out the car and came around, like, to drag me out the car. I hopped in the driver's seat and drove off in his car. I don't care. You might call it stealing. I said I was just getting away. Long story short, I gave the car back, but he took me home because we got into a physical altercation and I got the upper hand. And I was like, no, sir, let's take me home. So he took me home. I had really bad anger back then. And so my anger came out of protecting myself and just being like, I'm not going to let anyone cause me harm. So back then it was easy for me. It hurt, but I let friends go. Now that I've gotten older, I want to say maybe 27, 28 was the time when I started developing relationships where I was like, I want my friendships and my relationships to be long lasting. So I'm very selective of who I let in my life. So that's why I say I only have a close circle of friends, with you included, because I'm not the type of person who shares my personal business with anyone. And I feel like that's how I maintain Tiffany. Because if you tell everybody your business, then, you know, everybody else knows your business. So you really have to be selective in who you open your heart to and who you share information with, because sometimes people will use it against you and try to hurt you.
Absolutely. And so do you think you pick your and I guess maybe that's why I also say that I give people certain pieces of me. And it's really not, I really don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. But it's just that is how I protect myself as well. You know, I love these girls. I trust them with my life.
Yeah.
You know, everyone that is close with me, but I feel maintains that spot. I trust with my life. I trust with my kids. I trust that they would do the right thing by me and by my kids. You know, but I'm just only able to give pieces of me. You know, but do you think your relationship with your grandmother? So I know your grandma was kind of the loner as well. Do you think that has affected as well, like how you maintain your circle?
I would say yes. It does impact me of how I maintain my circle. Because my mommy is also private, but she's more like, she'll walk up to you and have a conversation like me. She can make friends, but it's never
not her thing.
It's not really, you know, she doesn't have to be around a lot of people, which I'm like that way too. In terms of my grandmother, she was very strict. So like I said, I was very sheltered up until I came to Chicago. And seeing that she didn't really need a lot of people around her, I feel like it did play a role in my life. And it made me be okay with being by myself. You know, and even as an adult, she's like, it's okay, you know, Tiffany, to go out by yourself. You know, sometimes I call it self-care.
And it is. It's a healthy form of self-care. When I say I don't want to be by myself, I want the company. It's because I like to talk and I want to spend time with people. You know, it's not because I'm afraid to be alone. It's you should always be able to date yourself. True. You know, go, and I enjoy like my little spa days when I'm getting my massages or getting my nails done or my feet done. And normally you would probably want to do that with a girlfriend, you know. So certain things I don't mind doing by myself. I just like when I go out to eat, I love to eat, right? So I'm like, I'm that friend.
She loves
food. I love food. I love to try food. I want people to experience this food with me. Okay, that's my thing. I think for me growing up, another way that I was a horrible friend, I think, in high school. I don't think that I was a good friend. I didn't have a lot of things played into my friendships growing up. I was selfish. Excuse me. I had a friend, she wasn't my first best friend. I think she was like my second best friend. I call her Anime.
Okay.
She's my Anime. Her name was Sherry Ann Guyton, but I call her Anime. You know, from Tina Turner. Not because like we could relate to any of that shit. No, nothing like that. None of that. But her middle name was Ann, and so I didn't call her Shay like everybody else, or you know, I barely called her Sherry. I mostly called her Anime. She was my Anime. She died she was killed in a head-on collision in a car accident in 2006. Okay. 2006, right before I left to go to the Army. I was very happy that it happened before I went to Afghanistan. I mean, not to the army, but before I went to Afghanistan, because had it happened after, I would have been able to go to the funeral, and that would have just like been the worst thing on earth for me.
Yeah.
But I realized I would read through. I have all our letters. We are letter writers. That was the friend, her and me. She was one of my bestest friends. We wrote letters though. We were writers.
Wow.
So we could be on the phone with each other. We're sitting there writing these 5-page letters front and back. Like we wrote front and back to give to each other the next day at school, or to mail to each other. Like, because we mailed each other letters even when I was in New York. Even though we talked on the phone all the time, we mailed letters to each other. And so we went through me and her always fell out though. We fell out like clockwork once a year. Like they say, you go on your period monthly like clockwork. Yeah. For most women it's clockwork, but for us we fell out once a year like clockwork. But it wasn't anything that would ever stop us from talking to each other. Okay. We would get mad at each other for something that one of us said or some shit like that. But so we wouldn't talk for a while. But then one of us would pick up the phone and we're talking like we talked yesterday. Like it's not nothing. Like it was nothing that we really needed to resolve. Nothing that we really needed to say sorry about. We would just start talking like it was nothing. Like, okay, well, what you ended up doing yesterday, or like just stuff like that. Like we just pick up where we left off at. I read a letter, and it still replays in my mind how selfish you can be growing up. Mm-hmm. One, when you feel like you have your whole life ahead of you, and just all of that. And I told her in one of the letters, I was mad. We had got into it. This was a letter after we had got into it, and I was like, I cherish our friendship sometimes. And out of everything I wrote in that letter, that is the one thing that sticks out to me that I still remember, because it's like, I cherished our friendship all the time.
But you were mad.
But I was mad, and I said that, and that was so wrong, because her response was like, her response was that she cherished our friendship all the time or whatever. And I was just I remember that. I was such an ass. And I was selfish. Like, it makes me emotional now, but I know that she knows how much she meant to me.
And how much you loved her. Yeah.
But you have to be careful what you say.
You do.
To each other, even in anger. Especially when you're being mean. But I don't feel like I was a great friend growing up. One, because even though my mother's friendships was my examples, I think that those were my examples of how your friendship was to be as an adult. Okay. Not how my friendship should be with my friends in high school or in grade school. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a difference for me within that. So I made a lot of mistakes with my friendships. One friendship in particular. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But I wasn't a really good friend back then. Like, I was selfish. I was selfish in a way, not that it was about me. I was revengeful. Okay. I was revengeful when I was hurt. If someone hurt my feelings or something like that, I was also revengeful, which wasn't a good thing. Because I honestly didn't know how to solve conflicts back then. I learned as an adult. And that's
amazing that you're a fixer now.
I know.
But you couldn't resolve
But I couldn't resolve conflict back then. I couldn't tell people how I really felt. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell them that they really hurt my feelings. I just would hold it in, and then I would retaliate in some type of way. Mm-hmm. And then some decisions I made back in high school was because I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. A lot of things played into how I was the type of friend that I was. Stuff that people probably wouldn't understand unless I went into really great detail about it. But just like I wasn't able to say no, which I will talk about more in a coming episode. I will get into that a lot more on the areas that not being able to say no has affected. Sex, and just getting yourself into different situations because you can't speak up for yourself. Sure. But yeah, anyway, I don't feel like I was that great of a friend back then. And maybe that's why I put so much effort and intentionality, if that's how you say it,
into your friendships,
into my friendships now, making sure that I'm intentional with my actions and I communicate a little bit better now, and maintaining the relationship that mean a lot to me. Okay. And I do still have some friends from high school. One of my friendships from high school is the one that taught me about being a friend. It really taught me as I got into an adulthood, the importance of being a friend and, not making those mistakes. And it taught me a lot. It really, really did. That was my friendship with Ariel. It taught me a whole lot about being a woman, about being a friend, and about repairing. Okay. That was a relationship that I had to repair. Got it. It took years. It really took years. I remember I used to cry all the time. She used to make me cry all the time, but it was my fault. It was definitely my fault. She was making me cry all the time. I would call her mom to try and talk to her mom or to try to get to talk to her, and she'd be like, she knew it was me. She'd be like, why you on the phone with her? Hang up the phone. One time she hung up on me, and I started crying because I really needed a friend. This was when I really, really needed to talk to her. Oh, God, high school. This is when, I've already said it in the previous episode, so this is when I had an abortion, and I needed to talk to her. Really needed to talk to her, and I needed a friend at that moment. But she was mad at me. She had every right to be mad at me. Every right. But I needed her then, and that's when I was crying. I talked about it in the, it was the episode with Lauren. That I talked about it, but that was the episode when my mom had walked past the bedroom door and was like, you shouldn't have made that decision then or something. You shouldn't have did it or something like that. But that wasn't why I was crying. I was crying because of the boy, and I was crying because my best friend wouldn't talk to me.
Right.
But that wasn't exactly why I was crying.
You like, I want my friend and she not here.
Yes, and but that relationship taught me a lot. And my mom, like I said, that influenced how I became a friend. But I think it more so took effect in my adult relationships than it did in developing those relationships as a child.
When you were younger.
Yeah, growing up. Which I don't understand how there could be a difference, but there really was a difference for me. Because I think I looked at that relationship as this is what friendships looks like when you're an adult. I separated it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what friendships were supposed to look like as a kid. You build those on your own. Mm-hmm. But as an adult, these is what those relationships look like, and this is how you're to maintain it. I remember when I first moved here, I didn't want to be your friend. I didn't want to be nobody's friend because I didn't want to make any new friends. I was upset about not being with Mika and Tisha and Stephanie and just all my other friends from before. I lived in Chicago. None of my friends lived here when I first moved here. I made friends here, but I was against even that.
Making new friends.
I was against that. And that's why I was so quiet. I remember they said that they thought I was gonna shoot up the school, y'all.
Oh,
you was one of them.
Did I?
Yes, you was one of them. You said because I used to always wear my hoodie. I love hoodies.
Yes, she did. I remember, and it was black.
Yep, my military hoodie.
Yes. And you were in the Army, so we was like, I don't think she.
They ain't trust me at first. You know, it is what it is. I ain't offended because I was purposely giving off the vibe that I didn't want to talk and I didn't want to be. Even though I'm in this counseling program, I didn't want to talk to anybody. You know, and I had this thing about friendship where I felt like friends should always be with you. You're supposed to be able to go off each other's houses and stuff like that. And I was depending too much on closeness. Mm-hmm. And not just, maintaining the friendship. And it's okay. Like, now I'm comfortable with it. If I don't talk to them every day, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I know that when we do talk, it's not going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. We're going to pick up like we talked yesterday. We can go weeks without talking, and that's fine. We can go a couple of months without talking, and that's fine. It's nothing changes. Mm-hmm. And that has been something that's happened in all of my friendships. We can go weeks without talking. Tiffany does a good job. I don't do a good job. Me and Keisha do not do a good job. Tiffany does a good job on keeping us together. Yes. She texts at least once a week. Hey, sisters, love y'all. And then we respond, or sometimes we might get to respond. Like, I respond a couple of days later. And I have a habit of writing texts and not sending them too. Like, they'll be sitting right there, and I think I press send, and I'm like, well, why ain't you respond to me? I go back to check the message, like, they really didn't respond. Oh, that's because you didn't send your response. So,
yeah,
I've been checking on that a little bit better now, recently. But I'm okay now. I think the one thing I want people to take away from today is, being mindful of the type of woman that you are in your friendships, giving what you want in return. If you're not able to get your needs met, that you need met by your friends, being able to communicate that to them, to let them know what you need from them, because a relationship is a relationship. Mm-hmm. And we do need stuff from all our different friendships. Mm-hmm. Mika has been the one that has been able to, and honestly, I think she's been the only person to really call me on my shit when it comes to different things. So, like, I have a really good habit of saying that I'm okay, I'm fine, and no one really presses that envelope when I say that or when I give off that. And I think it's because, I don't know, I hope it's not because they're afraid of how I'm going to react, because I don't react in a mean way or anything. But no one really presses that envelope when I say that. She's the only one who, and it could even be through text message. We could be talking about something and I'm responding and she'll ask. I'm like, I'm good. And then, she'll say, no, or I've been seeing this and I don't like what's going on with you, or how you feeling about this, or certain stuff like that. She's actually been the only person who does that. And at first, I didn't know how to feel about it. At first it was kind of, she don't know what she's talking about. Like,
Okay.
but it is, she didn't know what she was talking about, but it was me just coming to terms with that. And plus, it was a little bit uncomfortable, even though it shouldn't have been uncomfortable, but she was really the only person who kind of presses that envelope with me. Yeah, and really, really, really caused me out on it. So it took some getting used to. But I think it's very important to maintain your friendships and understand the changes that you need to make within your friendships as well. And if it's healthy, like you said, and if it means a lot to you, repairing and rebuilding is something that happens naturally. And I mean, like, it happens all the time. Your relationships are not always going to be the same.
True.
You're going to hurt each other. You're going to disappoint each other. We are human beings. No one is perfect. But being able to be mature and repair it is what really, really, really makes the difference.
Yeah,
what is something that you would like for people to be able to take away from today's episode?
I would say my advice to women or just people in general is regardless of how you grew up, your background, your relationship with your mother, even if it was toxic or it was very healthy, just understanding that everybody comes from a different background. And some people don't know how to form relationships. They've maybe never had friendships, and that's okay. As women, we have to understand that it's okay to not be perfect all the time or not be able to do what the other person is doing. Just like Taki's story is different from mine, we both grew up in different states and had different family structures. We were still able to come together in a part of our life as young adults and form a bond that we hold very true to each other. Just speaking from personal experience, I had to learn as I got older that sharing what you go through might help somebody else. And it makes me think back to the reason I basically became a counselor or became interested in psychology was because of some of my own downfalls and some of my misunderstandings and personal things that I went through, was to help other women. Even though back then I went through anger and just fighting and verbal abuse, to now see how my life has transitioned, and actually I've been able to meet some amazing women as an adult that play vital roles in my life. Because I feel like when you have a friend or you say, I want this person to be in my life, you've made the conscious decision to say, I trust you. I trust, like you say, I trust my friends with my life, with my children. It's a form of trust that you have with another individual to say, I care enough about you to let you in, whether it be a little bit or we talk every day and we basically vent to each other all the time. I've had to learn that, it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to go through things in life. And sometimes we go through things as individuals to later on teach somebody else. Like, I know I had very toxic relationships when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, it's given me the stability to say, okay, Tiff, you can't be so quick to react. Sometimes you have to hear that person out and see their side of the story, because maybe, like I say, it's all about perception. We live in a world now where, even now with all this social media, which I didn't grow up with, I didn't grow up with your whole life is online. So I think that plays a role too. But just forming relationships as you get older, you can teach other people. And I've often heard women say, I don't know why I'm going through this. I don't know why was I chosen to do this? Whether it be a mental illness, whether it be physical illness, or just relationship wise, just going through what you've been through, to share that with somebody else. I'm able to come out of a toxic relationship. I see things differently now. And now I'm encountering other women and uplifting them to say, it's okay. It's okay to walk away from a situation. It's okay that y'all were friends for maybe 20 years, but maybe you've chosen different paths now.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against you or the other person, but as people, sometimes you grow apart. And it's okay. You have to be okay with that. It might hurt. It might make you cry, but it's okay. Like I said in the beginning, if it's a relationship that you truly cherish and you feel like I really want this person in my life, being able for you both to come together and decide. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're deciding if you want somebody in your life.
Yep.
And it's your decision. When you were younger, it was kind of like, you my friend, you can't talk to nobody else. As Taki say, you can't talk to nobody else. You my friend only. We gonna do everything together. But
that was me.
As you get older, it's kind of like other people pull from you. Mm-hmm. Other people might need you to do everything. And being okay. We gonna get jealous. We're human. You're like, why you spending time with her and not me? And sometimes that person that might be doing those things aren't thinking about, oh, maybe I'm hurting my other friend. Mm-hmm. They're just like, oh, we having fun. We're going on a trip. Or whether going out to dinner.
I know, she cheated on me, y'all.
Or she cheated on me. But, just knowing it's okay, people. It's okay, women, to form different relationships. It's okay for people to play different roles in your life.
Absolutely.
It's okay to give your certain pieces to yourself. I might not tell Taki the same thing I might tell Ashley. We relate on two different levels. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. It doesn't take away from the love that I have for them. It's just knowing what role you play in my life and how we can grow together and still love each other, yes. Create this bond. Because a friendship is ultimately a bond. It's a bond that you have with somebody. And we're human. You're going to make mistakes, but just please know it's okay. It's okay to have more than one friend. Even if you just have one friend, it's okay to have that one friend.
It is. It's okay. Absolutely okay. And, my friends all say that I'm too friendly. I have too many friends. But I think I have the right amount of friends for me.
You have a big heart.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Because I need all of these women for different things.
Exactly.
And I fill their cup just as much as they fill mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I did want to say, which Tiffany touched on as well, that I've been thinking about is, even though I am a friend pusher and I advocating friendships, healthy friendships, it is very well, like she said, okay to know when you have to let certain people go.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who I've known that have had negative relationships, people who are negative in their lives, friends who pull so much from them and don't put anything back into them.
Yes.
You can't function like that. And some of those relationships are relationships that you can no longer hold on to. And that is absolutely okay. And like she said, it's healthy, it's normal, it's okay to let go. Mm-hmm. When those relationships can no longer benefit you and you can't benefit them. Because sometimes you could be that friend who's kind of holding this person's back or standing in their way, or you could be that negative vibe. You could be that toxicity, for them.
Mm-hmm.
So recognizing that too, recognizing when you are playing that role in someone else's life and being adult enough, mature enough to say, okay, well, let me step back. Or whether it's to work on myself, so that I can start to become a positive person in this person's life, or stepping back and say, okay, let me not continue to be a part of this friendship, and then still having that conversation and don't just walking away without saying anything, but letting that person know why we can no longer be friends, or, I'm going through this right now. And so rather than bring you down and into this or whatever, I'm just going to lessen our friend, how much we talk right now. I don't want you to take it personal, but it's some work that I need to do on me. That's okay. And it's okay to let go and let whatever friendships have run their course. I think that's one of the things that's hard too, is understanding that relationships run courses. Some of them. Now, I won't say all of them, but some relationships run courses and they're not meant to be with you for a lifetime. There are seasons. And people do have seasons in your life. Mm-hmm. It's up to you, though, to determine if it's a season or if this is something for a lifetime. But understanding that can be the case and being able to let go.
And knowing that it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to let go. But if you call that person a true friend, being able to sit down and tell them, you might be that toxic person. Mm-hmm. I see that sometimes it's hard. It's hard sometimes to tell another woman or person, you're toxic in my life. And I have to maybe cut down how we interact because you might be bringing me down. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that is hard, even for me sometimes, to tell a negative person, look, something's going on with you and it's really negatively impacting us. So maybe you need to step back and review yourself. Because sometimes I've learned, even with my regrowth as being a single woman again after 16 years, that the toughest thing for a person to do is, one, get to know themselves, and two, sit in as they say, excuse my language, sit in your shit. To sit in your understanding and learn that your behaviors might be negatively affecting somebody or impacting somebody else.
I shared a post on the She3 page. If you can, go ahead and follow She3 on Facebook. Together, SHE, the number 3, no spaces. But I shared on there, basically a post about positive vibes. And when you have someone negative in your life, they can affect your mood, your actions, your thoughts on a daily basis. They can block, as you say, blessings. I'm a spiritual person. I strongly believe that you can allow energies to block things that you're supposed to be getting. Blessings you're supposed to be getting, or situations that you would probably be in by now had it not been for the negativity in your life. And so it's our responsibility to also realize, as women, as a mature being, when someone is blocking, when they're being negative and blocking some things in our life, and the opposite when we're being that in someone else's life.
Yes.
So I really hope that these are some, good things that you take away from today's episode, and just understanding our responsibilities when you choose to be a friend, and just understanding your responsibility as a woman in general, when it comes to yourself and when it comes to those relationships.
Yeah.
Well, that is all we have for today. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Again, you can subscribe to She Speaks with Yana Me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or TuneIn, or simply listen to it on Buzzsprout. The websites will be available on the She3 business page on Facebook. Also, you can please follow on Instagram, SheIsMe_3. Be on the lookout next year for me and Mrs. Tiffany Paulette to be doing some private practice work.
Yes.
Right, I'm going to hold her to it.
I'm excited.
To it. Sweethearts Children and Adolescent Therapy Center will be opening next year. Stay tuned for all of that good stuff as well. But yeah, that is all we have for you guys today. I look forward to speaking with you next week, and we shall see who will be a part of that.
Thanks so much for inviting me out, Taki. I really enjoy myself. Continue to do what you're doing is definitely a blessing, and I hope this impacts everybody's life. Play it in your car, subscribe. Please support us as women. We don't really support other Black women, and I am all for supporting positive Black women. So please reach out, subscribe to She3, and beautiful and bigger things are coming. Thanks so much, and I hope to come back and talk to her more about different topics.
Yeah, and don't forget to get your tickets to I Am She, She Is Me, The Importance of the Mother-Daughter Relationship. That event, again, will be November 2nd here in Chicago at the Dan Ryan Woods Pavilion, located on 87th and Western. We'll have further directions because it's a little bit of a maze to get inside of there and drive around to the actual pavilion. Some people are thinking that it's going to be outside. It will be inside of the event venue. Okay, it's going to be cold in November. Okay, it's always cold around Halloween.
That's okay.
It's the weekend after Halloween. So yes, it will be inside. But again, thank you guys for listening. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.